Hi there. Welcome so much. Welcome out. And want to thank you so much for coming out, being with me today. As you notice, today it is via YouTube, my YouTube channel. And as you can tell, there's very little content here so far. And I want to work on building my YouTube platform. And so I wanted to try out and see how the live would go from the YouTube platform today. And so thank you just so much for being out here. I know we're just a little bit before 9 o'clock. I just wanted to give time for you people to come on. The chat is available here on the YouTube side. And so feel free, if you have the ability there to chat in the YouTube, that you can drop some comments and things there. Obviously, this one is going to be available as well after. And I wanted to share this one with a wider audience and have it available for more people because what we're going to talk about today is so important. It is so critical. Okay? One of the biggest questions that people have been asking for a long time is, what does it take to be happy? Okay, so many times people will associate just money. Money is the only thing that makes us happy. And although money can be associated with happiness for sure, it is not the determining factor in our happiness. Okay, so again, money can be related to happiness in our lives, but it is not the determining factor. And this is the story of the Christmas Carol, right? That Ebenezer Scrooge constantly was just trying to get more and more money, and he was getting less and less happy. When you look at kids in countries like the Philippines and countries of Africa, we see happiness, and yet they have nothing. So obviously, happiness itself is not directly tied to money, but money can absolutely be associated with happiness. So that's one of the things that we want to think about. So here in the comments, if you are jumping on, what do you associate with happiness? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. What do you think creates lasting happiness? All right, so as you look at that question, what creates lasting happiness? As you drop in the comments there, I don't think it will be a huge surprise, but at the same time, it is kind of a little unknown secret. We talk about it all the time, but we don't actually spend the time we need to figure out what it actually takes. One of the coolest things with this is that this information is based off of an ongoing study since 1938. Okay. Harvard professors wanted to discover what it took to be happy, and they dove into what is called the human development or the adult development project. And this study of adult development, they originally started with just a small population of 70 or so people, but they have been tracking since that time any spouses, children, and grandchildren, and they have continued on that study. And now it is now several thousand people involved in this study. And they would interview them and deep dive into questions and talk to them and ask them what really contributed to their happiness. I'm going to tell you two things it was not. It was not how much work they did or how much time they spent at the office, and it was not how much money they made. Those two factors have not determined happiness at all in this population. Okay, again, it's obvious, right? But at the same time, we want it to be that. We always want to go. I know that I'm guilty. We want it to be that, well, if I just get more money, I will be happier. But if you've ever seen any reports on people who win the lottery or Powerball or things like that, they think their life is just going to change forever for the good. And unfortunately, it actually usually goes the opposite direction. When they're given that large quantity of money, they kind of just forget everything. I know I grew up with a movie called Blank Check. If you haven't ever seen it, I love that movie. Blank Check. It was about a kid who accidentally got $1 million from a guy who hit him on his bicycle, and he didn't finish writing how much it was. and he put it that it was $1 million, and kind of a funny thing he got it. Well, he goes and buys this big house and all these fancy toys and all this stuff, and he's just living the dream life, right? And then the money runs out, and he realizes that he has nothing. Okay, money is not happiness. Okay? Happiness has to come from within. So, what are the two things? The two things that have been consistent since 1938 in this study that has been ongoing. Two things. Okay, right? If you're taking notes, write it down. Here's the first one. The first one is our physical health. Our physical health impacts our happiness. Okay, in today's world, we are so conditioned to just eating foods because they taste good, and we're just used to now being at weights that are not appropriate, weights that cause us to not feel good. Okay, our physical well-being, how much we get outside, how much we work, how much we do those things is going to impact how happy we actually are. If we are sitting at a desk all day long in a job, we have to find an outside physical outlet to increase our happiness. If I am a teen and I am sitting at a video game or a computer or on my phone for long periods of time and I'm not getting physical exercise, I'm not getting outdoors, that will impact their happiness. We have to understand this. Okay, since the Industrial Revolution, prior to the Industrial Revolution, physical activity, food, all that was not a problem. Okay, you worked on the farm every day, you worked hard at the home every day, you had little amounts of things usually, and so you were scarce. Food was more scarce, it was not abundant for most people. So that was just normal. The Industrial Revolution hit, and now I don't have to spend my entire day making clothes. I can now have a machine do it for me. I don't have to do this. And what happened was we got into this mind frame of, rather than working hard on the farm outside, people started sitting for long hours or standing for long hours inside factories, thinking that this was actually going to improve their lives, and it has done the exact opposite. And since then, we are still struggling with this. So if you would like to have lasting happiness, if you want to be happy, it requires consistent daily exercise. We have to do it. We have to get our bodies moving in order to feel good in the long term. So what does that mean? That means that your teens, you need to talk. You need to talk about, what are you going to do to be more active? What foods are we going to start cutting out of our diets that are actually causing us to feel terrible? It's not an easy, okay? Never is easy. The things that give the best results are never the easiest. We all know that. We can't trade off something that is easy and get something that is up here in this level. Okay, that's one of the two. So physical exercise. How is your physical exercise going? What are you doing? I invite you to leave a comment. What is something, either a food you could cut out or a physical activity you could put into your life that will improve then your overall happiness? All right, and the second one. Today we're going to be fairly short and sweet. I want to keep these nice, short, and sweet for you guys, not drag them on. Part of this 1938 study that started, still ongoing. The other thing that they found was relationships. Relationships. Okay, the quality of their relationships has been the biggest determining factor on their quality of life. Okay, I want to break this down into a couple parts for us today. Okay, relationship with deity, relationship with self, and relationship between others. 3 different relationships that have to happen for lasting happiness. Okay, our relationship with a creator helps give us a sense of hope. Our relationship with ourself and how we feel about ourselves also, once again, will give us a sense of hope. And then relationships with others is the one that really solidifies this whole thing. What is required for happiness is relationship. Now, I want you to think about this. Kids, teens who are struggling the most, they pull away from people. They go away from people and go into their rooms and go onto phones and computers. We think that social media is actually building connections, but it's not. It's actually the opposite. These online relationships do not count. They are not valid. These relationships we're talking about that create lasting happiness in our lives are in-person relationships, talking to people. So when we have a child who wants to withdraw and we say, well, I guess it's better that they're on their phone than nothing, because at least no, it's not better. We have to give them opportunity to be out and to interact with people. We have to have relationships with them ourselves. We have to build the quality of our relationships if we want to be happy, if we want them to find true happiness. And again, this is absolutely essential. It cannot happen without this quality of relationships. Are there terrible relationships that exist? Yes, those are going to happen. Those aren't the relationships, obviously, we're talking about. Those will happen. We're not worrying about those. The relationships we're worrying about are the people that matter most in our lives. So many teens, when they get caught up in addictions and other things, they let that addiction impact their relationship. And then they start to feed themselves lies and information. That, well, because of this, my mom would never love me again. Because of this, my dad doesn't want me to be around. And that has happened. I'm not going to say it hasn't. But as parents, it is our job to make sure that our children know that no matter what they do, we are there for them. And we use that in our words, we use that in our body language, and we continue to love them no matter what happens. Okay. But we focus on the positive. We focus on that they are wonderful and great children and that they have bright futures ahead of them. So I just encourage you, I invite you this week, as you now think about these two things, what are the two things you are going to do this week to improve your happiness? One needs to be a physical activity, exercise, eating right. The second one needs to be around relationships. How can you show those that are in your life that they mean something to you? What can you do? Now, if you are struggling with this, you're struggling with this connection, or you've already severed that relationship with your teen, that's where I can help. I am here to help you rebuild your relationship with your teen. It is possible. I am here to help you understand what your teen is going through inside so that you can connect with them emotionally, so that you can validate what they are feeling. Yeah, I've been guilty. For a long time, I was going at everything the wrong way. I was going to frustration and anger and yelling and arguing and all those things. It took me a long time to get it into my head that that wasn't working. And I'm glad to say that I did change it. And my relationship with my teens and my teen and tween are better than they've ever been. But it took me changing my mentality, not them changing theirs. They will change automatically. We have to remember how young teens still are. They're less than 2 decades old. And most of the time, what we're looking at is more just over a decade. They're not very old. And we have to recognize that that is the case, because they're still fluid. They will still adapt if we are there and help them. But it does require our effort on our side. So thank you so much for being here today. If I can be of help to you, please send me a message, Facebook. You can drop it in the comments here. And I would love to get back with you. and see how we can work together to help bring lasting happiness into your life. Help you rebuild the relationship that you would love to have with your teen or tween. Thank you again. Until next week, we'll see you then.